Welcome to the Deep Dive. Our mission today, well, it's simple. We want to map the absolute bleeding edge of how we interact with computers, where the line between our brain, our body, and our digital tools is just dissolving. We're looking at how three massive technologies are coming together: eye tracking, brain-computer interfaces, and augmented reality.
Yeah, and what's really striking looking at the sources is that this isn't some far-off future anymore. It's not science fiction.
Right.
These things are actually merging right now outside the lab, creating these hyper-personalized systems. They don't wait for you to type or click anything.
They just know.
They monitor your mind, your body in real time, and they adapt to, your internal state.
And that fusion, well, it creates this huge tension, doesn't it? On one hand, we get these incredible leaps in efficiency, accessibility, even medical recovery, things you could never do before.
Absolutely unprecedented.
But the cost, it feels profound. We're bumping up against really tricky questions about privacy, about autonomy, and just how deep this integration should go. How much of us do we plug in?
That's the core challenge.
So to really get a handle on this new world, let's start with maybe the biggest input channel we have.
Yeah.
Vision. Our sources, they paint the eye as this absolute data powerhouse.
Oh, definitely. Something like, nearly 80% of all our sensory impressions come through the visual channel?
80%.
And the speed difference is just staggering. If you look at data transmission speed's site, it clocks in at around 10 million bits per second.
10 million. Okay, compared to what?
Well, compare that to touch, which is maybe a million bits per second, or hearing and smell, they top out around 100,000.
Wow.
So the eye is just this fire hose of information constantly feeding the brain. And that sensory dominance, well, that's exactly why researchers have been obsessed with it for so long. Duvall started tracing eye movements way back in the late 19th century.
Right, I remember reading about that. And didn't Yarbus in the 50s or 60s show that where you look actually correlates with what you're interested in?
Exactly. Yarbus's work was foundational. It showed that link between gaze and attention, or interest. But the modern tech is obviously way more precise.
So how do they actually work now, these modern trackers?
Well, most of them rely on something called PCCR, pupil center corneal reflection.
PCCR, okay.
Basically, it involves bouncing in near-infrared light off your pupil and your cornea, and then an infrared camera tracks those reflections. It lets you map exactly where someone is looking with high accuracy.
Okay, so it's light reflection.
Yeah.
But the hardware is getting smaller, right? More wearable.
Oh, absolutely. It's moving rapidly into wearables, everyday objects. We're now seeing these cutting-edge, frequency-encoded eye tracking smart contact lenses.
Smart contact lenses.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah. The goal there is ultra-high accuracy, think less than half degree of orientation error.
Wow.
And they need to be robust, even with changing ambient light.
Okay, wait. If the tech is in a contact lens,
Yeah.
what can you actually do with it? Like control things?
Yeah, the source material gives some really practical examples right now. You can control objects in both virtual and actual environments.
Like what?
Things like playing that old game Gluttonous Snake just with your eyes, or browsing the web, or even directing a PTZ camera, and tilt zoom just by looking and blinking.
That level of control is, well, it's impressive. But you also mentioned lower cost options, like webcam tracking.
Right. That's becoming much more accessible, using AI, basically deep neural networks, to analyze standard webcam images.
So no extra gear needed.
No extra gear. It can generate things like digital heat maps showing where people look on a web page or an ad.
But if it's that easy, that accessible,
Yeah.
doesn't that just open the floodgates for collecting this kind of data from, well, everyone?
That's exactly the point, and that's the core insight for commerce, right? This accessibility means eye tracking gives brands these unfiltered consumer insights. It tells them where your attention actually goes, not just where you say it goes. So they can refine store layouts, product placement, package design, website usability, bypassing self-reports entirely.
And I guess medically, the potential is also huge.
Oh, definitely. The diagnostic power is really intense.
Yeah.
There's research, for example, that used eye tracking to differentiate between kids with ADHD,
Okay.
attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and those with fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, FASD, simply by analyzing their eye movements while they watch TV for just 15 minutes.
15 minutes. That's incredible. It turns the eye into this non-invasive window to neurological function.
Exactly, a powerful diagnostic sensor. But, and this is the big but, that leads directly to the core ethical tension, the privacy paradox.
Right.
If the data is that powerful, it's also incredibly sensitive. These metrics, they measure pupil size, how often you blink, how long you blink, those quick, shirky eye movements called saccades. They aren't just about where you look. They reveal how you process information. They can indicate psychological states, your preferences, your interests, even phobias or aversions, like if you have a fear of spiders.
So just by looking around a website or a room, you could be giving away really intimate details about yourself without even realizing it.
Precisely. It's a direct pipeline into your internal state. Very personal data.
Okay, so if the eye is measuring the input, let's shift to the ultimate output control thinking itself. That brings us to brain-computer interfaces, BCIs.
Right.
These are systems that essentially cut out the middleman, right? They skip the muscles and turn your raw brain signals, your neural signals, straight into commands for devices.
Yeah, basically translating brain language directly into computer language, bypassing those traditional motor pathways completely. And the medical success stories here are just profound, especially for accessibility.
Like in the case of Dennis McGray.
Exactly. Dennis DeGray, a quadriplegic man. He used an invasive implant to send a text message just by thinking it.
Just think.
And get this, he was able to type straight from his brain about 5 times faster than you can type on your phone.
5 times faster. That's not just restoring function, that's potentially enhancing it beyond typical ability. It shifts BCI from purely rehabilitative to maybe an efficiency tool too.
He really does. And the ability to restore function gets even more incredible when they add sensory feedback.
Ah, right. The sources mentioned providing something called ICMS, intracortical microstimulation.
Yeah, ICMS. It's essentially artificial touch feedback. They provided this to a paralyzed patient who is controlling a robotic arm.
Okay, artificial touch through the BCI.
Exactly. That sensory feedback, it's like the computer teaching the patient how to use the arm again, giving them that feeling. Without it, the patient's kind of guessing. But with ICMS, the patient got that crucial feeling of touch, and it massively decreased the time it took them to complete tasks. By over half, 51.2% actually. They went from taking almost 21 seconds down to just over 10 seconds on average. And on some trials, they were achieving near able-bodied performance.
That's amazing. But those implants, like DeGray's, are pretty invasive, right? Open skull surgery?
They are, traditionally, but we're also seeing less invasive routes starting to emerge, which is really critical if this is going to be adopted more widely.
Like what?
Well, there are BCIs, like the one from Synchron, that can be implanted via the jugular vein. No open brain surgery needed.
Through a vein, okay.
And these are already enabling people with severe paralysis to control their personal devices, phones, computers, and even smart home stuff like lights, plugs, thermostats, all just with thought.
That sounds much less daunting surgically, but does the source say anything about trade-offs? Like, is the signal as good compared to a direct cortical implant?
Well, it implies that ongoing engineering challenge, right? You always get a better, clearer signal the closer the sensors to the neurons.
Makes sense.
But those highly invasive implants carry that risk of scar tissue forming over time, which can actually block or degrade the signal. So it's this constant balancing act.
Yeah.
Signal purity versus surgical risk and long-term stability.
It's fascinating, though, that the applications are already pushing beyond just fixing things, beyond restoration. We're seeing uses in creativity and high-stakes performance.
Oh, absolutely. It's moving way beyond just medical applications.
I think the Pangolin Scales animatronic dress is just such a wild example.
That's incredible. It is.
This dress that uses, ultra-high density EEG?
LHD-EEG, yeah.
To read the wearer's brain waves, their theta, alpha, beta rhythms.
Cognitive states.
And then it translates those rhythms into actual physical movements and lighting changes on the dress itself. It's like wearing your thoughts.
And the core insight there is just critical, I think. When you link thought directly to output like that, you're essentially turning the human mind into, a native API.
An API for consciousness.
Kind of. Your internal state becomes a direct input for external design. You're designing with consciousness.
And beyond art, that same idea has immediate serious implications for high-stakes situations. Like, the sources mentioned BCI being used successfully in intense gaming.
Right, which serves as a direct proof of concept for other demanding applications, potentially military ones like controlling drone swarms.
Wow.
And even passively, BCIs can be used. They can monitor someone's engagement in real time during, say, a training session by tracking the ratio between certain brain rhythms, beta versus alpha and theta, and Crucially, the system can then provide automated cues, prompts to help increase their focus or ability to remember facts after the session.
So it becomes this continuous biofeedback loop for learning and performance.
Exactly, turning high-intensity training into something continuously measured and optimized.
Well, okay, this level of real-time monitoring, maybe even influencing our cognitive functions, that brings up some incredibly heavy ethical questions, doesn't it?
Huge questions, which is why you're seeing this push for policy work around concepts like the right to cognitive liberty. It's becoming a global discussion.
Cognitive liberty, meaning
Meaning if we can read and potentially influence thought itself, society absolutely has to safeguard the individual's autonomy. We need protection against coercion, against non-consensual surveillance, especially as BCI gets closer to enabling easy cognitive enhancement.
right?
It forces us to ask some really fundamental questions, like, can technology like this ever truly be unworn once we've integrated it so deeply into our being?
That's a heavy thought. Okay, so to complete this picture, we need to bring all this sensing and control capability into the physical world. And that's where augmented reality, AR.
Exactly. AR's job is to overlay digital information, 3D models, diagrams, live data, instructions directly onto our view of the physical environment.
And the practical uses are already there, especially in industry.
Oh, yeah. The efficiency gains can be immediate in complex processes.
Yeah.
Take Boeing, for example. They used AR smart glasses combined with voice commands.
To replace these massive phone book-sized paper manuals they use for building complex wire harnesses.
And what was the result?
A 25% reduction in production time.
25%. That's huge. That really changes how complex manual work gets done.
It's a massive shift, and it gets even more powerful when you start blending all three technologies we've talked about, the eye tracking, BCI, and the AR.
How so? Give me an example.
Well, look at training for surgical robotics. When you incorporate AR and VR feedback, that actually represents the user's mental focus monitored by a BCI.
Okay, so the system knows if you're paying attention.
Right. That feedback loop leads to a measurable reduction in the time it takes to complete tasks correctly after training, because you learn faster.
Yeah.
The system knows when you're truly focused versus when your mind is wandering, and it can adapt the training.
Precisely. And this kind of integration, it holds serious promise not just for elite professional training, but also for enhancing learning outcomes more broadly, and definitely for helping users with severe motor impairments in rehabilitation settings.
But as we get more immersed, more digitally integrated, doesn't the physical setup start to matter a lot more? The ergonomics.
Absolutely. With the cognitive load potentially increasing from BCI and AR, your physical environment isn't just a passive backdrop anymore. It's an active part of maintaining cognitive endurance.
That's the sort of ergonomic reality for anyone working or learning in this kind of hyper-integrated space, right? If you're wearing smart glasses, maybe mentally controlling devices, eye strain, physical fatigue, they become even bigger constraints.
For sure. And the sources detail some essential physical setup principles to help combat this. Simple things, but important, like monitor placement.
Okay.
The top of your monitor should ideally be at or maybe slightly below eye level, and you need to maintain that optimal viewing distance, usually around 20 to 26 inches.
Right, the basics. And the chair and desk.
Foundational support structure, massively important. Height adjustable standing desks are great. And ergonomic chairs that offer adjustable backrest tilt, recline, and especially crucial, good lumbar support.
Yeah, lumbar support makes a huge difference.
It really does. The chair isn't just a place to sit. It's part of the system that helps keep you comfortable and focused. And something often overlooked, especially for shorter people, is a good footrest. Ideally one with adjustable angles. It helps with circulation, reduces pressure points. It all adds up during long periods of high cognitive demand.
Okay, so the physical ergonomics are key. But going back to the digital side, AR specifically, it introduces its own challenges for user experience, doesn't it? Like motion sickness, eye strain.
Definitely. Those are known hurdles, especially with extended use. And critically, there's the issue of cognitive load.
Cognitive load, meaning just overwhelming the user with information.
Exactly. Designers have to be incredibly careful about how much information and how complex it is that they present in an AR overlay. If you just flood the user with data, you risk overloading their mental resources, which kind of defeats the whole purpose of trying to boost efficiency.
So, okay, say I'm building an app, and AR is like a secondary feature, not the main thing. How do I introduce it to the user without just throwing too much at them right at the start?
Yeah, good question. The best practice emerging seems to be very focused and contextual. If AR is just a supporting feature, then you should probably show any interactive tutorials or instructional walkthroughs only the first time the user actively chooses to use that AR feature.
Okay. Not when they first open the app.
Exactly. Don't flood them with instructions for everything the moment the app launches. The goal is always to maximize the benefit while minimizing that initial cognitive friction, that feeling of being overwhelmed.
Okay. So wrapping this up, this deep dive has really painted a picture of an astonishing and frankly imminent future. We're seeing systems where our vision is quantified down to the millisecond, where our thoughts can be translated into precise control, and where the physical and virtual worlds are just blending together seamlessly, all aiming for unprecedented productivity, access, rehabilitation.
The path forward, it definitely promises incredible efficiency and access, but as we've discussed, it absolutely requires extreme vigilance. We have to balance this amazing potential with really strong protections around data privacy, around that concept of cognitive liberty, and making sure users are comfortable avoiding that cognitive overload and navigating all the ethical pitfalls that come with this level of integration.
So here's maybe the final thought for you, our listener, to chew on. If AI agents are already automating things like financial planning, customer service, and we've seen how BCI and eye tracking can potentially map our deepest interests, our emotions in real time, what's left? What crucial human task or maybe even internal thought would be the absolute last one to remain entirely private, entirely unautomated? What stands out to you?